Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and thank you for joining us today on Let's Get Real. My name is Glenda Kroll, and I'm here to help you and empower you to go further in your life, in your job, in your career. Unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, Nicole will be probably popping in at any point, but I'm here to start you off along the way. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like that people, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, jump in and the first thing they're looking to do is they're looking to sell you something? You don't even know who they are, what they do, or anything about it, but they're right there pounding you in and all of a sudden looking to get you in, whether it's a group or whether it's something that they're trying to sell. Well, today we have the master of sales. And he is a man who has an incredible background of expertise. And I am looking forward today that I want to share with you what sales is really all about. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on John D. Allen, the master of sales.
Wow.
Hello, Dean. How are you today?
Actually, that is quite a big set of footsteps to follow. That was quite an introduction. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Because you are the expert of sales. I have, through our conversation, I have learned a lot. And, for all of us on Let's Get Real, for me, it's all about teaching others and sharing other content so that we all can learn and grow in our lives. Because isn't that what life is supposed to be about?
I agree 100%.
So before you got into sales, I know that you had an incredible beginning of life and you didn't start life off like the average ordinary person out there. So please start to share with us where you started your life and how it began. Certainly not in sales.
12 years old, I got a paper route. That started my working career. When I left high school, I went straight into the military. I got told I could go to any university I wanted as long as I could pay for it. Since I didn't have any money, that eliminated that one real quick. So I went into the military and I became actually a military cop. And while I was in there, I was only in for a couple of years. Our good government came along and said there will be no promotions and no transfers for 5 years. I was up at North Bay on a Beaumark missile base where for 4 hours there was 14 garages. You walk down this road, cross the back, up this road, and back to an outhouse, basically where you sat in. For the next 4 hours, you went the opposite way. Then for the remaining 4 hours, you sat in a guard shack and handed out passes. Well, I don't know about you, but I'd go crazy if I had to spend another 5 years doing that. So I left the military, and then from then on, I had a wide and varied career, or some people call it a lot of different jobs. I ended up in corporate basically for 35 years. My final position was I was the provincial manager for the world's fourth largest physical security company. I ran Saskatchewan. I had 733 employees under me. So I got to know a whole lot about doing that business. And it
Wow.
was before security actually that I was in sales. I learned about there was book Henderson Directory, and that was out in the 70s and 80s, and even up to the early 90s before computers came up. In that book, they listed everybody over the age of 18 and where they worked. So it was great for business, and it was just sold to businesses. It was great for businesses because then, there wasn't e-checks and all the rest of it. So if you got a bum check for somebody, you needed somewhere to look it down. So I'd been with them, grand total of about 3 weeks when got asked to be the sales manager. And by the way, at this point, I knew almost zero about sales, but I became the provincial sales manager for them. And then from there, I just had some other sales jobs, and I was always in the management position. I guess I just had a great way with people, and sales came easy. So it was something I could pass on to people. And in 2002, I'll back up a bit. And on December 4th, 2000, I suffered a major brain aneurysm where I was given less than a 10% chance to live. And if I did live, the odds were 85% against me having any kind of a normal life. Well, that kind of screwed things up for a while. But in 2002, I started my own part time coaching business. And my first client was my now dearly departed wife. She had a health and nutrition business, like everybody's. That was up and down like a yo yo, and got her making some steady profit. Then she was talking to the lady that did our dog grooming. So she said, "Could you help me?" Oh, sure. I didn't have a clue about it, but I said, "Oh, sure." Got her coming into some business. Then a good friend of mine who was in heavy truck sales in Calgary said, "Well, you helped those two ladies. Can you help me?" And I'm thinking, well, this is good. He was making 36,000 a year. And within 4 months, I had him up to over 104,000 a year. And that one was just got him to ask for referrals. He was dealing with a couple different ethnic groups in Calgary. And I said, all these guys know each other. Just ask for referrals. You're doing a great job. And that's what took him over that. And then, as I say, my wife passed away in '09. And that's when I decided to do coaching full time and been doing it ever since. Well, the other cute part about that is moved from out west, Saskatoon, down to St. Thomas. Ford's just closing. 15,000 people are losing their jobs. I figured I got it made for a business coach. I'm going to have clients coming out to yin yang. I couldn't get a client to save my soul there. I could get them in Western Canada, all over the US, Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland, UK. Couldn't get one in southwestern Ontario. And to this date, I've only had two clients in southwestern Ontario. The rest of them have been all over the rest of the English speaking world.
So what do because that's crazy that you wouldn't be able to get it right where you are. And we can talk about networking in a moment, but what do you think what was some of your important things that really got people moving or able to get sales? Let's go through a sales. When you meet somebody, what do you say to them? How do you start off your sales calls?
Basically, if it was you and I talking, Glenda, it would be, what's the biggest problem that you handle for your clients?
Okay, so I would say that women tend to have gone through some major struggles in their lives, and they have lost the confidence and they have troubles of getting up and moving forward with their lives.
Okay. What is your biggest problem in dealing with that?
What is my biggest problem is bringing it down to that one area that they need to actually focus on.
What does that mean?
Okay, so a lot of times when people have troubles in their own life, whether they have gone through a divorce, maybe a job loss, they have lost that confidence within themselves. They have that I'm not good enough. I just can't do it. They're not worthy. All of those things that come because when somebody gets knocked down, it affects them more than they know. But also, what has happened to them is sometimes in their younger years, somebody has actually put that seed into their brain. So it's toning into where that actually really started. So it's not a lot of times it has happened through that that obstacle that's knocked them down. But in a lot of ways, it can be the time where somebody maybe had told them in their family or that they're stupid or they don't know how to do things, and that has actually passed through the years.
Okay. Now, with your having that challenge, how does that affect your business?
The fact that sometimes it takes longer for people to really pinpoint where they need to where they need to go or to step back so they can get through that area so they can start to work forward. Like you've got to go back to realize, to comprehend, and then once you understand where it's coming from, we start to do the shift.
Okay. What does that mean to you personally when you're having to go through that? What does that mean to you?
Well, there's a longer time frame involved in it, and we know time is money.
Right.
So that's
Right.
the harder part of it.
Now, with that being the harder part, with time is money, what does that actually mean?
It means that, well, first of all, the type of person I am, until I see my clients starting to shift for themselves and starting to create the world that we're looking to create for them, building up their confidence, I will work longer with them if need be, so that they get what they need to get accomplished for themselves. So they start to have that confidence, empowerment, and start to move forward on what they're looking to build.
What does that mean to you when it starts taking you longer to build that confidence? How does that affect you?
Well, it affects my bottom line because then I won't be able to see as many people. So I have to put more time out to people if they're not being able to get through to things. Well, that's why I
Besides,
mean it's money.
right. Besides your bottom line, what else does that do like to you, like mentally?
I guess sometimes there can be a bit of frustration with people if you're drawing out, you're showing them things, and sometimes they don't get it at times. It sometimes can take longer that you have to work with someone so that they can start shifting a bit.
Okay. That frustration, what does that cause in you? Like, what's that doing to you? Like for that frustration?
Oh, wow. Well, I didn't realize we were really going into this. Okay. So, what is it causing me between being frustrated? I'm looking that when I'm working with somebody, I'm looking that I'm going to build them. So, if I get frustrated because they're not, there's a struggle with me because it's an unhappiness that like that I feel like they can't seem to pinpoint or that. So, there's um, sadness that they're not moving forward for themselves as fast as that. I know at some points that it does happen. Some people move forward faster than others, and some people it takes quite a bit of time.
Okay. I'm talking about you personally here. Like, what does it do for you when this frustration sets in?
Well, I guess I question myself of maybe I start to step back and look at, okay, if they can't get it this way, then I question myself. So I have to shift my way of teaching so it can be taught in a different manner.
Okay. What does that do for you? Like when you have to shift your way of teaching, what does that do to your thought process?
Um, so Well, okay, so I have found all through my life where I've had to sometimes shift my way of thinking because if you don't understand people, you can't see it through their own way. So for me, it's becomes a challenge. Well, I'm the opposite. I look at it as it's a challenge. Okay, I'm going to find a way that I'm going to make sure that I'm going to create something for that person that they'll get it. So it becomes of a challenge for me. And I'm one that I love a challenge. So it's like, okay, if it's not going to work this way, I have to, dig into myself and figure out ways that I can come through with a different way or different example of moving somebody or shifting them.
You brought up a great point. How big can that challenge end up being for you?
Well, I'm the woman who's had challenges all through her life. So for me, I love a good challenge. It doesn't stop me. It actually, I'll tell you a story. I was involved with a property that I bought a while ago, and I had a situation that I brought in a contractor, and he was the contractor from hell. And want to talk about challenges, I found out I was had something in me that knew something wasn't right because things got fixed too fast. Something wasn't right. And so it was the challenge of, first of all, going back to the architect and then going through. And the challenge is figuring out what to do. And my idea was to open up a wall and see where there was a main beam, and opened up that wall and found out that there wasn't a main beam where there should have been. Yeah, hello. Okay, so you want to talk about challenges. I've had challenges all my life on so many different avenues. I sat back and what am I going to do? So what did I do is I started right away. I started interviewing contractors, and I had people coming in, and I started getting ideas, and I decided at that point I was going to open up everything that it was previously done, because anything that involves my name means there has to be quality behind it. So I just think things through. And if something is really challenging, so let's say if I had a client that I can't figure out, well, I have a thing with myself. I have an agreement with me. When something gets really challenging, I sleep on it. I don't allow it to destroy me. I will sit back and sleep on it, because then once I sleep on it, things come to me, and then I will figure out which way I'll do it. I've had that throughout my life. I told you I've been very vocal about the fact I have two brothers with disabilities. I've taught them and trained them and gotten jobs and figured out how to do things that never having the help or really having the real education towards that, and have been able to master crazy amount of things. So the challenge is, for me, it's something that's saying to me, okay, there's a little bit more of a challenge. You got to figure this out, girl, and you got to keep going.
That's quite a great story. What would happen, for example, if you come to one of these challenges and you can't figure it out? What would that do to you?
I knock on doors to figure out, I ask questions. I'm not the type of person that sits back. It doesn't knock me down like maybe that's what you're thinking, that it knocks you down, it stops you, whatever. No, that's why I do what I do, is because I see things, I can see through things. It's the challenges that I love things that make me work, to make me think a little harder. And I have this knack that I'm able to figure out things when most people can't.
I actually wasn't at all to try and knock you down at all. All I'm doing is, if you're paying attention, is peeling back the layers of the onion, right? To get down to where the main challenge is. This is how I make the sales of my program. You peel back the layers of the onion till you get down to the bottom, where the person can come to it. And then I'll say, is that your real problem? Yes. Do you want to solve it right away, or do you want to wait 6 months to a year? If you want to solve it right away, then I'll go into what I do. If you want to wait 6 months to a year, I'll put you on the email list and we can stay in touch. But as your audience, and I hope you can see, as I kept going down, down, down with you. And by the way, you wouldn't make an ideal client for me.
I would. I wouldn't.
Wouldn't. Nope.
Yeah.
And again, because, and kudos to you, because the challenge that you have isn't there. You've got some other smaller challenges, obviously, but they're not above your level to figure it out. So that part, you did a great job going down the iceberg.
Thank you.
You know,
But no, I love it. And here's the thing, and we'll start at the top of the pinnacle of it all. So many times today, and I said this in my intro when I came in, we started talking. So many people today, and I have it all the time that it comes to me. So if it's happening to me, then it's happening to most other people too. They introduce themselves, or sometimes they don't even have the decency of introducing themselves, is they start off selling. And it's like, so many times, I have this group you should come to. Wouldn't you like to be a part of this? I can do this for you. I can do that for you. And I look at it and I'm in disbelief, because I come from a world of sales. I grew up in a sales family. So I've been exposed to it my entire life. And how do you start selling? Well, for me, it's always been about finding some type of commonality, introducing myself, talking, even small talk, finding something about that person that, for me, if I see a woman who's has a beautiful smile, I love smiles. So the first thing I will do, is compliment her on whether on her smile, on her dress, or whatever. And the same thing with a man. There's nothing nicer than a man that stands tall and all the rest. And when you can just do that right away, you change the personality. Instead of having that person like that it might be standing in front of you with their arms crossed, you change that whole feeling towards that person with you, because you've had some type of a connection. And what do you feel about the way people come on today and they're automatically, before they even know what your name is, they're automatically selling you?
I call it throwing up all over you. You say hello and they throw up all over you. And most sales, a lot of people don't realize it, are last at hello. And it's for just what you described there, Glenda. You say hello and it's, I got the greatest, grandest, most wonderful thing you ever heard. A, who the heck are you? B, you don't know who I am. What's my problem? Do I even have that problem? Am I even interested in hearing what you got to say? And all the rest of it. And that's why so many of these people, they say, well, geez, I'm not making any sales. Well, no guff. You're turning people off as soon as it's said. It'd be like if I called you up, Glenda, and you never heard of me. Hi, Glenda. I'm John Allen, small business coach, and I got the greatest, most wonderful thing you ever saw. Psst, up goes the sales wall, right?
Yeah.
And get off the phone as quick as possible. So you don't do anything there. So to me, what you have to do is people have 5 questions that they ask in their head. You have to answer. They'll never verbalize them. The first one is, do I trust you enough to answer all your questions honestly? Second one is, do I trust you enough to follow through on your solution? Third one is, can I do this? Fourth one is, do I want to do this? The fifth one is he or she the right person to help me do this? If you can't answer those 5 questions for them as you're going through your program, they're never going to deal with you. People talk about know, like, and trust. They have to trust you first. Know and like could come later, but the trust has to be there before they'll answer your questions honestly and they'll do stuff. And you can earn, excuse me, you can earn trust very quickly. As by, like you said, a bit of small talk, but also it's being interested in them.
Yes.
Don't try to be the most interesting person there. And this is where you've heard me say many times, fall in love with your prospect, not your solution or program. Because honestly, they don't give a damn about your solution.
Yeah.
Their big concern is, can you solve my problem? And one of the other things, I talked to a couple of gentlemen. One was a retired engineer. The other guy was a retired doctor. And they had one of these people call up and tell them, in 90 days, I can 10 times your revenue. So I said to the doctor, need you to call that guy back, tell him your clinic's doing $10 million a year, and you'll be very happy to work with them because in 90 days, you're going to have $100 million. Make sure you're on Zoom because the look on the guy's face would be priceless.
But too often people over extenuate what they think that they can do. And unfortunately, they never capture that trust in you really set off at the top.
Yeah, and the other thing that happens is people start talking and you might think they're the nicest person going. You don't trust them, you're never going to do business with them. And they, geez, that John's a great guy to talk to. Call him up and yak, have a coffee or whatever. Great guy. Never do business with them. But until you got that trust, they're never going to do that with you. And that's all the big thing comes down to it. And 70s, 80s, 90s, and even the 2000s, it was basically pressure people into sales, as
Mhm.
you're well aware. Now, because of all our handy dandy electronic gadgets and everything, people have more information than you and I will ever have on our products or service. The only difference that separates us is we at least have boiled it down. If they want to go it, they've got to go through a ton of crap to get to the good stuff. So, you know, as professionals, we can shorten that. The other part is there's a lot of people out there, unfortunately, that have read a book or studied under somebody for a brief time, and now they think they're an expert. And years ago, Dale Maloney, when I was in a network marketing company, said the definition of an expert is an X is a has been, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. So, that when anybody comes across as the expert, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But you are right. You have to figure out what they want. And you do that by asking better questions. That's why the good Lord gave us 2 ears and one mouth. And we should talk minimum twice as much, listen twice as much as we talk, rather. And you ask about not getting any business in my own local area. Well, I look back and there was a well-known guy 2,000 years ago. He couldn't get business in his own hometown. He had to leave, and that was Jesus. So I guess if he couldn't get any business in his hometown, I'm in good company.
You absolutely are. So let's go into a little bit today. We'll talk about networking because it is a really good thing to do. Whether it is for your own business, maybe somebody to come together to work with. Networking has so many different areas, but also coaching, or connecting and networking to meet people and referrals from one another. Do you network?
All the time. I use Alignable and LinkedIn. And on both of them, I go through their profiles and I look for something in their profile or even in a referral of something I could say to that person of, hey, Glenda, I noticed in your referral, Mary Jo said XYZ about it. Could you tell me a little bit about that? Now that does two things. One, makes you feel good because A, I read your profile, I went through your recommendations. And two, I'm interested in what somebody has to say about you. I'm not coming along and telling you how great, grand, and wonderful I am. It's all
Yeah.
about you. And you're the person when you're networking, that other person, they're the star of the show, not you. And when you treat them that way, that's how you get places.
Yeah, that's the whole thing that people don't realize is that people love to talk about themselves. So when you open up and allow them, as you just be there to be interested in them and allow them to talk, it changes everything around.
That is so true. And like you said, they love to talk about themselves. And the other thing is, you hear a lot of people, I do this, I do that, blah, blah, blah. You're a great eye specialist. And nobody gives a damn. It's the same thing I tell people. If you look on your website, people want to have their picture, their logo, and all the rest of it on their website. Let me ask you this, Glenda. When you've got a problem and you're going through Google looking for possible answers, do you care what their logo looks like?
No, not at all.
Do you care what their picture looks like?
No. Um, However, like I believe that people have to, I'm a professional and I looked for professionalism. But it depends on what I'm looking for. So when I'm going to a contractor, I'm certainly not going to care what he looks like, but I'm also I do read websites through. I do look at what type of experience and what type of, what they have done or capable of doing. And I read testimonials. Same like with products. You do the same thing.
Yeah. But that's looking for an answer to your problem. What their website and all the rest of it actually looks like, that's totally immaterial. You want to know, can they answer? Can they solve your problem?
Can they straight?
And that's where so many people, their businesses fall flat because they want to have the pretty website, they want to have their picture and logo up there. That's great for their ego. It really stokes it good.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything for anybody else. One of the things I suggest, and your viewers are welcome to use it, you can agree or disagree, but what's the one question you get asked the most? And if you put that question up there, but put it in, are you suffering from, or do you get blah, 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 right? So now the person comes along, what's on their mind? If that's their problem, hey, I
Yeah.
want to read more. You may or may not be the one they choose to talk to, but it will give you a better shot at being the person that has a chance rather than having a pretty website and all that. And I chuckle. I talked to a couple website designers and they get prizes for building fancy websites. I said, what do you guys actually know about doing sales and marketing? Nothing. But we get prizes for building a fancy website. Whose money are we spending? You
Exactly.
know, I really don't give a damn if you get a prize or not. You're building a website for me. This is for my business, not you. And a lot of them get a little ticked at you. Well, you got to do this, you got to do that. When they don't understand sales and marketing, a lot of people let them lead
Yeah.
to where they want it to go. And then they wonder why the website doesn't do anything for them.
Well, the other thing, yes, and I agree with you so wholeheartedly. It's funny that because you're saying that, one of the mentors that I have, now the biggest thing is funnels. Funnels website, same situation, and he has found that his most successful funnels that he's ever created are probably the ugliest ones. They have actually made the most amount of money for him. So it goes to show you, when you're trying to look and be, and looking for everything to be so perfect. Well, that's the problem. That's what holds us all back on too many things in our lives, right? We're looking to be perfect, and perfection never happens. You're
Nope.
spinning the same wheels.
Yeah. And, Henry Ford said it, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Absolutely.
And that is such great advice for people in business. If you think, oh God, I can't pick up that phone and call that person because, I might be disturbing them or they might say no. Well, so what? If they say no, you don't need to talk to them. They're not your ideal prospect anyways. And who knows, they might say yes. And then with some people is, oh God, now what do I do? They don't have a clue. So, be the best you that you can possibly be. You don't
Wow.
have to be.
Hold on. That's drop the mic. That is crazy and incredible, but that's right there. That says it all. Be you.
Yep, be authentic. Be the real you. You don't have to try to be me or you or, try to be you or somebody else. Be yourself because that's who people buy. There was, I was looking at it and they said one deal come out, 80% of sales are made because the person likes you, the person doing the selling. A lot of times they may not even know what they're buying, but it's you that they bought. And they bought you because A, they trust you. You made them feel special. You know, that's where we've all heard Peter Beckenham say, you know, memorable moments. When you create memorable moments and you make that person feel special, that's when they remember you. That's when they want to do business with you. That's when they feel, wow, you know, Glenda's somebody that made me feel really good. I want to deal with her. That's what causes that.
And you know what? That's the one thing that people don't even look at that is just it's like the glue that holds it all together. Making somebody feel good. And being honest, like, you can say things and be honest with someone. It doesn't mean that you have to shoot them in the foot.
Yep.
There's different ways. It's not what you say, it's how you say it that really matters in life.
Yeah, it's the tonality and your body language. Because a lot of times people could say, I cannot hear a word you say because your actions speak so loud. And, if your actions are saying one thing and your voice is saying something else, hey, you got mixed signals going out there and nothing's going to happen. There is something going to happen. You're not going to make a sale. The other part that happens is people, you end up in a chasing game, and you end up in a chasing game because you haven't answered that person's solved that true problem. And that's when you end up having to chase them. And I'm sure, Glenda, you know as well as I do, they can run faster than you can. And now with social media, that's a click, they just ghost you. They
Yep.
do it because they don't trust you. And it's a polite way. Most people are too polite to say, no, thank you. I don't want your services or anything. I'll think about it. You know,
Well, I don't know if I call that politeness. I think that most people are just too scared to say thank you, but no thank you as well. That's just my way of looking at things.
it can be either. Now, there's a lot of people that are actually quite blunt and what have you, but there's also a lot of people that will very politely listen to your whole presentation, let you get all finished, and then tell you, gee, Glenda, that's really great. I got to talk to my cat, dog, wife, partner, salamander, fish, you know, I'll discuss it with them and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And it's all because, A, you didn't get down to the real problem, but B, they don't trust you. And so they're never going to deal with you. So until you can establish that trust with the person and get right down to the brass tacks with them, and they accept that that's what the problem is. It's not just getting down to it. They have to accept it and want to do something about it. Because if they don't want to do anything about it, A, it's not the real problem or it's not serious. So that's another thing that you have to do when you're going down to it.
So, with you have somebody that you're starting out with, what are your recommendations to start out with if you're looking that you have a new program that you're looking to sell?
If I had a new program that I was looking to sell, A, I'd find out who my ideal prospects were. And the other thing is find out where these people get their information from. Because, you might love Facebook, for example, and they get their information off TikTok. They're
Mhm.
never going to find you. Or, because we're older, we may be using Facebook more than the younger generation. They'll never find you. So you have to go where they are. It's not your favorite source of information, it's theirs. And until you start dealing in their world where they find things, you're going to be beating your head against a wall.
So that's a really key point to those that are watching. If you're looking for your ideal customer, and we all need to have that ideal customer, let's talk about that for a second, John. I know this, but so many people don't realize that when you're out there selling something, need to know who is that person that's going to either walk through your door, get to you online, whatever it is. You have to have already figured out who that person is who's going to be buying from you, correct? Let's talk
That's
about
excellent. Let's use your own example. Now, when I said to you, who's your ideal client? If you just repeat it just for the people listening.
For mine, it's women that are over 40 looking to recreate a life after they have been through some major struggle, probably such as divorce or job loss and so forth. Right.
So
And
now, nope, sorry.
go
What
ahead.
you just did there was you narrowed it down. You've
Yeah.
got the age demographics in there. That's not saying you won't go a little below or a little above, but
Right.
this is your general age demographics. These are the struggles that the people have had, and this is what you want to deal with. So that's being very specific. I tell people you want to be an inch wide and a mile deep. I don't know about converting into metric. That might be 2 centimeters by a kilometer and a half. I can't tell you that. But the whole thing is you're better off to be narrow and deep than you are wide and shallow. And the reason for it, the deeper you go, the more opportunities are going to be there. And that's the best part about that.
Absolutely. So, that's an important factor that I think everybody needs to realize is to get through. The other areas that we need to find out, just like you were mentioning, is also to knowing where they hang out, where they get their information, where they hang out. So, whether it is, and there's different ways of figuring that out. Can you tell our audience about these type of ways of figuring out where their people are?
Sure. There's a ton of different groups on LinkedIn, on Alignable, on Facebook. I'm not familiar with Chit Chat or Snapchat and all the rest of them, so I won't even comment on those. But go to look where these groups of people are. That's where you want to go looking for it. When you go into that group, go through and see what problems they're talking about. If you find someone has a problem that you can solve, and not everybody and anybody in the group, say it was you, Glenda, say, Glenda, I may have a possible solution. You know, I'll back that up because I've said, forget your program and solution. Glenda, I noticed you mentioned having X, Y, Z for a problem. Would you be open for a discussion of ways you may not have thought about dealing with it?
Yeah, it's a perfect thing. Yeah.
And again, the key part of that is ways you may not have thought of dealing with it. Because, everybody's got their ideas of divorced women, or they've gone through a job loss and, oh crap, why me? And, where am I going to get another job and all the rest of it, right? But if you come across with ideas you may not have thought of, well, hold it. Maybe this individual has something that could help me. That will get their attention more than, Glenda, I got the greatest, grandest, most wonderful solution you ever heard for your problem. Because now it's trying to sell me something.
Well, and this also goes back to what you first said before, blowing your own horn. Nobody wants to hear you blow your own horn.
Yep. And, and that is so true. Again, it's my problem. Talk to me about my problem. WIIFM, everybody's favorite radio station. What's in it for me? And you need to answer that question. If you can't answer it, you're dead in the water.
And that's really part of what we need to do in life is look at what's in it for somebody else and not just for yourself.
Yep. And WIIFM is for them, not for you. If they're your ideal client and they want to work with you, they'll tell you. The one thing too about sales 70s, 80s, 90s and that, you were always trying to lead the person down the path, to get them to that close. Well, people don't want to deal that way anymore. And when they feel like you're trying to lead them somewhere where they're not ready to go or they don't want to go, you're going to get resistance. But if you're just having a normal conversation with them, asking questions, you're not out to be a police interrogator. You're just asking questions and getting them to answer it. They're going to say, wow, Glenda's really great. She's paying attention to what my problem is. She's listening to me. That is really great. The other thing is, and I was guilty of it for years, and I imagine 90% of the rest of the salespeople are, we hear something and we jump to a conclusion. I can help them solve that rather than let them talk. The person might just be starting to open up to you and say, wow, I have so much more I wanted to tell Glenda, but she jumped right in there. So now I'm not going to say anything. And now you got the I'll think about it. And you're into the chasing game again.
Absolutely. Wow. This has been a jam packed full of, even Sherry has been watching us and saying that she's gotten some great tips from this. Great conversation. And I'm glad, Sherry, that you've learned some things from. That's what this is all about. So, John, as you know, we're coming to the end. I just want to start finding out, what are ways that people can contact you and what will you do for somebody else if they reach out to you?
If somebody reaches out to me, I have a brief 15-minute conversation where it's to get to know a little bit about them, their problem, their business, their problems, and to share about myself. Because, hey, a little bit about it. Now, the other thing to do is at the end of that 15-minute conversation, I'm going to decide whether I want to have a second call or not, because it's my business, right? And this is where I'm not out to take anybody and everybody. Just because you got a pulse and a wallet doesn't qualify to be a client. You've got to qualify to work with me. If you've met the criteria up to then I'll ask if you're interested in having a second call where we can get more into the details and what have you. That's where I'll go into, providing it goes right. That's where I'll go into what I have to offer. Because until we come down to your actual real problem, I don't know whether I can help or not. So that's where I am for there. You can reach me either, and I believe, I sent you my website at Allen Small Business Coaching.com. And
I believe it's down on our description on our
yeah,
on our site here. Yeah.
there's also an ebook I wrote several years ago. If anybody would like a copy of that, if they just email and say, copy of the ebook, I'll be glad to send it to you, no cost. It's got 8 different strategies in it that can put $25,000 to $50,000 additional revenue in your pocket in a year, and that's not just a one shot. That could go on year after year as long as you use them. I'll be happy to give that to anybody that requests it.
So anybody watching and wants a copy of John's ebook, just even below this video, if you comment ebook, we'll make sure that John sends out a copy to you. We'll then DM you to get your email address so we can send it on to you. So, sorry, go ahead.
It's called Unlocking the Hidden Treasures in Your Business.
Oh, I like that. And that's kind of unlocking the treasures in life.
Yep.
Because here's what I'm going to tell everybody here that's watching. If you're successful in your sales, you're going to be more successful even in your life. Because isn't life all about sales? If you want somebody to do something for you, it's learning how to ask the right questions for them so they want to do things for you. It's not about telling people to do things, it's about asking. And it starts to go, so from this, and that's why this is such a great, your book, your ebook would be a great things for everybody to read because it helps you with even in your life.
I tell women, especially that are worried about getting a promotion or whatever, they say, they don't feel they have the expertise or whatever. Are you married? Do you have kids? Because I'll tell you what, you got kids, you got to delegate to them. You got to get good on time management and what have you. You got a hubby comes home, plucks his arse on the couch and says, bring me a beer. You may or may not want to put up with that crap, but there's all the household jobs have to be done and everything else. Women have such great natural leadership abilities that was one thing when I was in corporate. I was always looking to promote the women because a lot of times they're a hell of a lot smarter than the guys. And, the guys had it made because that's the way it always was. But ladies, smarten up. You're a heck of a lot smarter and more talented than a lot of guys are out there. Start making use of your natural abilities. You'll go a lot farther in life.
Oh, I love that, John. Thank you. There's so many ways. For me, it's always been about empowering others. And that's what you're doing today is empowering people to continue on. Like selling can be just as easy as having just a great conversation. So if we even took the word out of selling and let's learn to communicate, well, that would change everything too, wouldn't it?
That's true. Just have conversations with people. That's all you have to have. It's not a sale. Go and looking at it. Well, they're not likely a client of mine anyways. What that does when you go in there with that attitude, you're more relaxed. So is the prospect. And if you're just having the conversations a lot like we went through today, you're finding out about them. Lo and behold, well, there's going to be a lot more interested people in you because you're not trying to ram anything down anybody's throat. So, it's a great way to do business. And it goes against a lot of conventional sales training that's been happening for the last 50 years. And 90% of it's outdated. So, use what works.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. John, this has been a great conversation that you and I have had. And I know we've had some notes from our watchers saying that they've had gotten so many notes and great points from you. So I want to thank you. But before I let you go, what I do want to find out is there one thing that you want to make sure, a little golden nugget that people know or that they should know that would help them in their business moving forward?
Fall in love with your prospect's problem, not your solution or program.
Ooh, again, drop the mic. Thank you, John, for joining us today. I'm so glad that we've had this conversation. This is something that people just need to understand, to just be real with themselves, to stop going to sell and just have conversations, which makes everything so much easier. And that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
Right. Thank you, Glenda. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope your audience gets some good benefit from this.
Absolutely, they did. Thank you, John, for joining us today. And thank you for watching. This is Let's Get Real. We're here to help educate you and help build you. But most importantly, we're here to guide you through wherever we can. Remember, John's here and can be reached out. We'll send you this ebook. Just make the notation down below, ebook, and that will make sure that John gets one out to you, and learn that selling isn't such a bad word after all. Thank you and have a great day.
Right.